A life devoted to sin is hard work and really bad pay. Hi everybody and welcome back to Be Like Christ. The Bible says in John chapter 8 that whoever practices or lives for sin becomes a slave of sin. And in the book of Romans it says that the wages of sin are death. Now I don't really want to be anyone's servant or slave, but if I have to be somebody's servant, then I really hope the money is good. But being a slave of sin comes with some really bad benefits. Think about it with me. There's some disadvantages here in the physical world and in eternity. If someone's dishonest, a lot of times they'll lose friendships or their relationships will fall apart. If you're a thief, you might have to pay a fine or do community service or maybe even go to jail. If you're a slave to an addiction, you can find that your body's torn down and destroyed and you feel old before you're actually old. If you have an affair, your marriage can fall apart. You can lose contact with your kids. If you're covetous, it may lead you to do things that are terrible in order to get the things that you want. Or maybe you're just lazy. Life's going to be harder when you're lazy. And so in the physical world, the consequences that being a servant of sin can have on our lives are not really things that we want. And that's also true with the life that's coming after death in eternity. Let me tell you a story. Imagine that a man goes to see a blacksmith and he says, "I want you to make me a long and a heavy chain, and if it's a good chain, I'll pay you very well for it." And the blacksmith, wanting a payday, says, "Sure, I'll do that." So the blacksmith devotes himself for a long period of time to making the chain. And after a season, the man comes back to the blacksmith shop and he says, "This is a really nice chain, but I need it to be a little bit longer. Work on it another week and then I'll come back and I'll pay you for it." And being encouraged by the promise of that paycheck, the blacksmith goes on and he continues his work for another week and he adds link by link until the chain is a little bit longer. So after the week is up, the employer comes back and he praises him for his work. He says, this is great, but I still need it to be a little bit longer." The blacksmith is tired at this point and he needs to move on to his other projects, but the man insists. He says, please, I will pay you very well. Just add a few more links and then it'll be perfect for what I need it for." And so the blacksmith goes out and he buys a little bit more material and he gets a good night's rest that night and he goes back to work for another week on the chain. So the blacksmith goes out and he buys the last bit of iron that he can get a hold of and he adds the last few links to the chain. And when the week is finally done, the man who employed the blacksmith comes back and he takes a look at the chain and he says, "This is perfect. This is exactly what I needed. I will now pay you your wages." And before the blacksmith knows what's going on, the man with the chain takes it and he binds the blacksmith and throws him into the fire that he just used to make the chain. And that's kind of how sin is. It promises a lot and it pays very little.